Hello, and welcome to this American History podcast titled Competing Claims. So, last time we talked about the different overseas expeditions to the Americas led by the European countries of Spain and Portugal. And in this podcast, we're going to discuss how this interest in claiming land in the Americas led to international tensions among European powers. And one of the main goals of exploration of North America was that European kings and queens hoped to find a water route to Asia through the Western Hemisphere. So several monarchs sent explorers to find such a route, or what is known as a Northwest Passage. They mainly wanted a river that stretched east-west across the North American continent to Asia. And as you can see on the map here, there are many rivers that run through North America, but there is not one singular river that runs east-west across the entire continent. They hope to find this to make travel and trade easier. And on this map here, you can see all the different European countries that were sending explorers to the Americas in search of this Northwest Passage. And on this map here, this is the actual Northwest Passage that exists. It's just extremely difficult to get ships through because it is near the Arctic Circle. So that passage does exist. It's just not what they were looking for. So John Cabot was commissioned by the English king to search for this Northwest Passage. And Cabot left England and sailed to Newfoundland, which is in Canada, where he claimed land for the king. And you can see that fur trapping and codfish there are going to be the main industries for this area. So then France sent out another Italian explorer, Giovanni de Verrazzano, to the Americas. His ship landed near Cape Fear in North Carolina, and it continued along the coast to Newfoundland. And again, that's in Canada. So about 10 years after de Verrazzano, France sent Jacques Cartier, and he explored the coast of Canada and the St. Lawrence River 3 different times. And his interactions with the Native Americans there led to the name Canada. The name is actually derived from the Huron Iroquois word Canada, meaning village or settlement. So that's Jacques Cartier. So our next explorer is Henry Hudson, and he had explored the Americas twice for England, but it was his trip for the Dutch in the Netherlands that he'll become famous for. So Hudson sailed along the Atlantic coast after failing to navigate the Arctic Ocean, and today, because of his exploration, we have a river, a strait, and a bay that carry his name. So right here is the Hudson Bay, the Hudson Strait, and then you have the Hudson River right here that flows through New York City. So none of these explorers found what they were looking for, which was a western sea route to Asia. However, the knowledge gained from these explorations did prove incredibly useful. It aided the countries when they later laid claim to land in North America. So while explorers searched for a Northwest Passage, religious and political unrest was growing throughout Europe. The Spanish were already angry with the French and English for claiming lands in the New World, and tensions increased when France and England challenged Catholicism, and that was the dominant faith in Spain. And the Catholic Church had been persecuting or punishing Protestants throughout Europe. You may remember that from 7th grade history. And one Protestant group, the French Huguenots, looked to the Americas for refuge. They tried settling in Brazil and South Carolina before founding a colony near St. Augustine, Florida. And Spain's King Philip II was outraged, not only because they were Protestant, but because the Huguenots had chosen South Carolina with the intention of attacking Spanish ships carrying silver. So Philip ordered the Huguenot colony to be removed, and after a brief encounter at sea, the Huguenots were defeated. Most of the men refused to return to Catholicism, and they were killed. So right here you see this is the religious wars that were taking place in Europe, and this is a French Huguenot church today in South Carolina. Spain had always had a head start on settling North America, but England started to catch up largely because of Queen Elizabeth I. She was a Protestant and she saw Spain as a threat to England's independence. And her brother in law, Philip II of Spain, like many Catholics, wished to see her become unseated from her throne. So both Spain and England had powerful navies, and Spain's fleet, known as the Armada, was made up of large, full-rigged sailing ships called galleons, and they mainly were used to transport goods from the Americas, and they were heavily armed, but their cannons were not secured to the deck, which made these large weapons difficult to reload and discharge. On the other hand, English ships were extremely nimble, or they were easy to maneuver. They carried fewer goods and soldiers, but their mounted artillery was more quickly and easily discharged. So English ships were also fast, and their sailors, the sea dogs, appreciated this quality in their ships. So, because Queen Elizabeth had challenged Spain's claims on the Western Hemisphere, um, Spain had seen this kind of as an act of war, and Spain was going to send their navy to try and conquer England. And the Spanish Armada was a fleet of about 130 warships. And knowing that their vessels were slow and had fewer and smaller cannons than the English, the Spanish captains hoped to take advantage of their own greater numbers. And their plan was to have their men board the enemy ships and defeat the English in hand to hand combat. However, stormy weather delayed the Armada, and this gave the English fleets a chance to join together and it advanced as a force. So, England's fleet had smaller ships and fewer soldiers, but their superior speed and artillery demolished the Spanish. So, many thousands of Spanish soldiers were killed, while England lost several hundred. With only 60 ships remaining, the Spanish had to return home, really embarrassed and in shame. So this defeat of the Spanish Armada was a blow to Spain's position as the most dominant world power in both Europe and the Americas. And through its victory, England ensured its own continued independence from Spain's power, and that really did weaken Spain's position in the world. So, because of the defeat of the Spanish Armada, we're going to see that other countries in Europe are going to start building their own colonies in North America because they were no longer afraid of Spain. So, in 1608, explorer and cartographer Samuel de Champlain established a fur trading base at a point along the St. Lawrence River that became the first permanent French settlement in North America. So for 2 decades, Champlain explored the lands, and as he explored, he strengthened trading ties with the Huron and the Algonquian tribes. Champlain also allied with these Native Americans against the Iroquois. And Champlain's new trading partners would bring him valuable furs, which he then shipped to Europe to be sold. So, hearing of Champlain's success, other French traders joined him. And this system resulted in an international fur trade really so successful, the country claimed the region for itself and named it New France. Uh, Problems in New France were that population growth was extremely slow. So, 20 years after Champlain began his business, the post, which was later named Quebec, was home to only about 100 people. By comparison, the English colony of Jamestown grew from 105 people at its founding to over, 1,200 people a decade later. So, in an effort to encourage people to settle in New France, Champlain's company expanded its charter to include lands from Florida to the Arctic. And the company would send Jesuit priests to Native American villages in the hopes of learning their languages and converting them to Christianity in accordance with France's Catholic beliefs. However, the French government's refusal to allow Protestants, which were the most likely immigrants to settle in the Americas, kept the population of New France very small. So as you can see here on the map, New France here in green is a very large area. So this was a sizable area that had very little population. So we just talked a little bit ago about Henry Hudson searching for the Northwest Passage when he discovered the river that would bear his name, which is the Hudson River that flows through what today is the state of New York. And on behalf of the Dutch, Hudson sailed up the river, trading European knives and beads for furs from the Native American groups there. And the pelts brought a really good price in the Netherlands. So traders would go there and set up posts near Albany, New York. And like the French, the Dutch cooperated with local tribes to establish a thriving fur trade, and the colony of New Netherlands then was established. The Dutch would find trouble with Native American groups, so they had purchased the island of Manhattan from Native Americans in 1626, and they developed the community of New Amsterdam, named for the capital of the Netherlands. But there was a misunderstanding in this deal. The Native Americans believed that they had sold rights to share the land, and they themselves would be able to continue using it. And the Dutch believed that they had purchased exclusive rights to the land. By 1640, though, the Dutch and Native Americans were at war with each other over this misunderstanding. And really, the conflict over Manhattan represented really a much larger issue. Native American tribes had been living in North America for centuries before Europeans arrived, and conflicts over land would continually arise between Europeans and Native Americans. So, different European groups sometimes involve Native American trading partners in their arguments over trading opportunities, but many disputes ended in violence. Additionally, many Native Americans succumbed to European diseases, resulting in a significant decrease in their populations. So, this picture right here is what many people believed the island of Manhattan looked like at the time that the Dutch arrived there. So, members of the Lenape tribe lived on the island they called it Mannahatta, which is where the name Manhattan comes from. So, right here is Manhattan as it looks today. So, very important place, and it's changed a lot over time. And of course, this place, New York City, would become the largest city by population in the United States. So there you have it, competing claims of the Americas. So in this lesson, we learned about exploration of North America by the French, English, and Dutch. And we learned about how the quest for land in the Americas led to tension between European countries. We also saw how people in Europe started to think about the Americas as a place that they could go to seek refuge or to make a better life for themselves. So that's competing claims. And if you have any questions, write them down and ask them in class. So I hope this helped. Have a great day.